All right. So as it says, we're going to be recording. So this is kind of permission from everyone. So if if you do have any questions, definitely go ahead and chat them, and we'll go from there. But if you stay on, you've given us permission, so we'll go ahead and start. All right. So as I said, these are going to be the course presenters through the demonstrations and the training and education on this. Myself, Jeremy Collip, Lindsay Rendell, Jordan Lerner, Matt Bauer, Jeff Frears, Mike Schwab, and Brianna Hedges. They will all introduce themselves, kind of give you some background of themselves when they do the presentations. I was saying earlier, unfortunately, you all are going to have to put up with mainly me today, going over everything, but changing up the faces, the voices, kind of throughout the demonstrations, just to make sure it doesn't get too mundane on everything. But again, I'm Jeremy Collip with HCR. I'm the digital delivery manager for Colorado, and I have been in the industry now for over 28 years. And I would say over those 28 years, I have worked with CDOT. Those 28 years, I've done some work with local municipalities, of course, other DOTs, things like that. But I have been an extension of CDOT for quite some time now. So definitely, we put our best foot forward on this to make sure that we're addressing the needs of CDOT users and that it works better for you all, and kind of going from there. So that's a little bit about me. So course agenda, you guys do have an agenda. I think Sahar sent out. We're going through today. As Sahar mentioned, we're going to kind of an overview of the CAD manual and digital delivery manual. So it's a little bit new flavor on the manual prior. So before it was just the CDOT CAD manual. This will offer more modeling standards, different elements like that, checklists, a whole bunch of other things. We'll go over the file naming convention. There was a lot of, I guess, information given to me from a lot of people at all the different regions from CDOT on file naming and what it's been over the past few years, kind of trying to get it back to where we were before. And then also the project-wise folder structure, and making sure we have all the specialty groups included in those folders, and really how that works and how the file naming works with the folder structure. And that project-wise folder structure, we are concentrating on the pre-construction folder, not necessarily the post-construction or the management folders. We're really kind of looking at the pre-construction and then 05, the project standards. And then we'll also go over project file information today, which is going to basically be going over how keeping files clean, file federation, container files, different things like that. Second day, we'll be going over the ORD interface. So I know a lot of you are familiar with that. There's some other things that we wanted to just touch base on with the ORD interface, kind of through some tips and tricks, things like that. Existing terrain models, not really how to do existing terrain models, but the process that a lot of the surveyors are going through, and just kind of knowing what to check for, knowing what to look for, and how those are delivered. Horizontal geometry, if it has time, because day 3 is going to be geometry and super elevation. So it's really kind of going through all of those different methods and with both horizontal, vertical, and super elevation. Day 4, we're going to go through roadway templates. This one's probably condensed roadway templates. As you all know, that could be an easy 2-day session, but we'll be going through that. Same thing with corridor modeling the next day. We'll be going through a lot of those items, going through the bucket pretty extensively, and different methods of modeling, some different tools to put in your tool bag. Day 6, we're going to go over the proposed terrain models and different ways that those can be created, those methods, and calculating earthwork methods on that. And day 7, we'll be going through plan production and 3D modeling deliverables on quality checks. And again, knowing that right now, of course, it's a hybrid world. It's for information only on those 3D modeling deliverables, but the more consistent we can get those, the better. So we'll be going over that on that last day. So day one, that's what we're focusing on today. So again, first part, we will be going over the CDOT CAD and Digital Delivery Manual. So really kind of what to expect on, we'll be providing best practices and workflows. So a lot of what we go over today is what's going to be in the manual. So we're really trying to tie these two things together. And when I say best practices and workflows, again, it's catered towards CDOT. So when you do have those questions, definitely ask those questions, because we want to make sure that it fits the majority of everybody. Focus on consistency and uniformity. I just mentioned with the digital deliverables, the more consistent, the more uniform we can be on how, not really the preference of modeling, but how components are put together, how things are modeled from design, and then how they're produced. The more consistent we can be with that, and the more uniform we can be, then it's going to work much better with the contractor and those types of things. The foundation behind everything, so kind of what I'm talking about, and then making sure that we're setting up for success. We want, again, this is CDOT's manual. We want to make sure that CDOT is helping with this. So that is one thing, is we will be working with all the regions. We'll have a couple of representatives from each region that'll be involved with this as we're moving forward with developing the manual. That includes the file naming, the folder structure, all those different things that we go over today, the input and different elements that we have there. And a lot of it will be driven, more so from a design modeling standpoint, production standpoint, not really a preference standpoint, but that's where we want to move this forward. So this is CDOT's guide. So we want to make sure that, that HDR and CDOT are all working together, all regions, the entire state. That way it's uniform across everybody. Matching the training material. As I said, the material that we cover through the training is intended to reflect what is going to be with the CAD manual and those types of things. So from a high level standpoint is what that CAD manual will be. The trainings are the how-tos. The CAD manuals is the why and the what that we want to do and going from there. So a lot of the things that the manual have in it are with the CDOT standards and best practices. So again, we're not just taking the 2011 CAD manual, throwing it away. We're pulling information from that manual. We'll be utilizing as much as we can, but as you all know, a lot has changed from 2011 to, in the past 14 years to what we do now and kind of what's delivered now. So we'll be updating a lot of information that's in there. We'll be providing checklists. I'll pull up an example here real quick on some of the things that we're working on. So we'll be providing a checklist, as you can see here, just kind of a planned deliverables and what we go through with all of the different items that we want to have in there. Again, this is a work in progress. This is draft, so it's not set in stone, but really kind of identifying what we're expecting at each milestone and how we want to deliver that and what those things are going to look like. So same thing with the model deliverable plan is what are we delivering from a model standpoint? So even in the specifications in the 105 spec, we list out if we're providing XML, spreadsheets, DGNs, different things like that. Again, for information only, but we are providing them. So those are the things that we want to make sure that we're starting to become consistent and uniform on. And it also will have a bunch of different model QC. So we'll have a model QC, design criteria, general, all the different specialty groups in here. We'll have QC checklists for everyone and what those milestones are. So again, we'll be working with the regions on this and making sure we're addressing what those needs are. So that's an example of what we'll be doing as far as the checklists and those items. We will be looking at design and modeling expectations, which we'll be going through all the training on this, and you guys will get a feel for what that will look like. And bring that up real quick. So we'll have some things that are like this that will actually be in the manual of just, like creating geometry, those just kind of best practices and methods that you can use for that. So those are also some of the elements that we'll have in there. And if I can get my PowerPoint back here, sorry about that. Production expectations. Again, we will have those expectations. More so we'll have listed out. And what we were planning on doing was doing some bullet items and then off to the side explaining what some of those things are on the sheet, so that people know, okay, these are what go here, these are what go here, and then just identifying what those expectations are. And again, right, setting this up for success for everyone. So we want to make sure that we're working together on all of this. So Har, do you want to go ahead and stop recording real quick, and we can see if we got some questions from anyone? I see there's some on here.